the Sustainability Management Master's Program, you're answering one simple question. Do you care about your future generation? If you care about your kids, their grandkids, then you care about sustainability. And a sustainability manager is someone who has the tools to make people understand how they can contribute towards developing a sustainable world. We have both part-time and full-time students. Our curriculum is 30 hours. Instead of thesis, we have a research project course and a seminar course which provides them with the kind of research background they will need to be successful in their job. But at the same time, sustainability is not always everything about environment. It also relates to the business. They will take a sustainable business strategies course. They will take a project management course. Most of these courses are going to be taught by industry people, the people who are doing sustainability on a daily basis as a part of their job. Any organization that has a large number of employees and has a physical infrastructure, they will have to have a sustainability office. If you have the passion to develop and maintain a sustainable world, come to us and we will help you shape your passion into a career which will create an impact.
The Stevens Institute of Technology is proud to present the Hugo New Corporation Sustainability Seminar Series, brought to you by Brown & Codwell, Geocetic Consultants, H2M Architect and Engineers, BEM Systems, and Catalyst Group.
Okay, so for those who don't know me and for those who do know me, feel free to, stop us at any time. I like to be really interactive, and I don't always, I guess, go by the book. I'm a pretty talkative person, and I like to make things fun, right, Dr. Sarkar?
Yeah, absolutely. But
Yes.
they can. If you guys want to ask them questions like raise your hand electronically, because although Chris is talkative like this, the forum might not allow him to talk directly. And if everybody unmutes themselves, then we'll have a lot of background noise.
Absolutely. So again, let's present this project. This is the Ramapo College of New Jersey Sustainability Management Plan, and I had the pleasure to work on it alongside Melissa, Dr. Ashwani, and two other fellow graduates who are not presenting today, but Kira and Ivan were a big help in creating this sustainability management plan alongside the guidance of Dr. Ashwani, Dr. Sarkar, and Mr. Adam Freegood, who is also a professor and a consultant who works alongside us at Stevens. So for the presentation today, we're going to go over a few things. We're going to go over some background information so that way you have a better understanding of why we did what we did, and from Ramapo's perspective, the sustainability management plan itself. We'll talk about, what do you think a management plan is, and the key areas of focus, the methodology, a breakdown of what it is that we did, some project implications, so more of not the implications behind creating a sustainability management plan, but more so the implications on our progress in completing it and working on it during the early March, April, and then we kind of started working on it during the initial phases of COVID-19. Some future plans and opportunities, and a question and answer discussion at the end. All right. So you can go ahead, Dr. Ashwani.
So these folks came to campus all set to take charge of Ramapo College and extract all kinds of information from us. And after the first meeting, COVID hit. And that pretty much squelched a lot of the planning that we had done about how we were going to proceed on this. So we managed to do one meeting with students, one meeting with the President's Committee on Campus Sustainability, and one meeting with administration, facilities, budgeting and finance, people like that. So on the basis of those three meetings, one meeting each with each of those cohorts, these folks proceeded with their plan, and they've done an extraordinary job, as I'm sure you're going to see for yourself. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So first and foremost, it makes you think, well, what is the sustainability management plan? Why is it needed? Or if it's not needed, why is it helpful? So before I kind of get into it, if you want to type in the chat some of your ideas on what a sustainability management plan, you can go ahead and do that for a quick second, and maybe I can read some of the responses. And if not, it's okay. Oh, I see one. An action or goal-oriented plan to transition to more sustainable operations. Awesome. That's definitely it, and it's a good start. The plan would probably, in this case, focus on different departments of the institution and suggest ways that they can conduct themselves more sustainably. Absolutely. Sustainability plan helps a business to move towards more sustainable options. Yes, you guys are on the right track. Less carbon emissions, water use, food waste. Yes, yep, those are all things that they focus on. Cool. Oh, yep. Executive buy-in. It can deal with that, yes. And then ideas and strategies to offset emissions. Yes. All right. Thank you very much, guys and gals. All right. So and this is actually a definition that we proposed right within our SMP report. So here it just says an SMP is an outline of recommendations proposed to address increased social, environmental, and economic benefits for an organization through the implementation of sustainability goals. So what does that mean? It's a framework or a proposed framework based on input from, say, for instance, our smaller group from Stevens and input from the administration and organization, in this case, Ramapo. So there are things that we want to jointly take a look at, make recommendations for, and see if we can, not only plan it out, but also implement some of those actions or plans to lead towards better or improved sustainability goals. So for our focus, we had 4 focus areas: engagement in community building, academics, campus operations, planning and administration. And we'll talk about it a little later, but these are very closely related to the focus areas and groups of the ASHI STARS program, as well as the Sustainable Development Goals. We wanted to have areas of interest that, pertain to other frameworks, something that we could build upon, but also condense and say, well, this is something very specific to Ramapo College itself, and things that the administration said, well, we would really like for you to highlight these key areas because this is what's important to us. This is the set of actions and goals that we would like to primarily accomplish or better for improvement. So for the SMP breakdown, the way that we conducted our SMP was that we took those topic sections and we said, well, let's come up with 2 to 6 goals for each of these big areas of interest, and how can we set up actions in order to accomplish these goals, whether that be something that's feasible for a closer timeline, so maybe a short-term goal, or a long-term goal with years to come. So if you can see the Sustainability Management Plan Goals overview, I'll let you have a little bit of time to read it, but as I said, there are about 2 to 6 goals for each area, and we broke them down into several smaller actions. On the left side, you'll see that's pretty much the bulk of our SMP, the executive summary, the introduction, methodology, the key areas of focus, the benchmarking, which Melissa will talk about a little later, and the appendix. So how did we actually go into depth on it? On the left side, you'll see the managing complex change in engagement. So that's actually a framework that we used for our sustainability management plan to shed some light on key areas that if you didn't have one piece of this model, it was really hard to accomplish your goals. So whether or not you had a vision, if you had a strong vision, if you had the proper skill set, the resources needed to build and make improvements on a project, incentivizing people in order to make some of those changes or some of the incentives already present. And then, oh, there's a hand. Yep.
Yes, are you able to go back one slide very quickly so I could ask you a question about something I saw on there?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now, I noticed under academics, it said restart Master of Arts in Sustainability Studies program. Does that mean that that used to be a program and Ramapo cut it for whatever reason?
Yes, I will actually let Dr. Shwani talk a little bit about it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. So we had a graduate program, a Master of Arts in Sustainability Studies, that we ran for about 6 years. The program was quite successful, but because of Ramapo College's location and because we didn't have the right mix of marketing strategies employed for it, enrollment dropped in 1 year to 6 students. At that point, the provost decided that we should suspend the program and reconsider it after we rethought our strategy. So the program was suspended. We brought an undergraduate program online, 4-year program, and the idea is to do a 3+1, 3+2, or 4+1 combination undergraduate graduate program and see if we can anchor it that way. That's the plan. So hopefully in a couple of years, we'll bring it back.
I'm glad you're giving it another fighting chance. Thank you so much.
This is a really good question too. And there were things like that we had to take a look at and see, well, what are some of the things that we can recommend, and it was already on the list of things to do. We wanted to just include it there because it was something that was imperative, something that would make a difference in the long term, or that we believed it would. All right. So and then I think the last thing that I was just mentioning was the action plan. So sometimes you can have all of these other elements, like a vision, a proper skill set, resources, and incentives. But if you don't have an action plan in order to put everything into effect, you won't have any structure. So those were things that we highlighted in each of our sections, for engagement in community building, sustainable operations, academics, and planning and administration, that we wanted to look at and see, well, how well were these different areas being utilized, and what was their impact like? As you can see underneath the kind of explanation under the managing complex of change, there are some key benefits. We wanted to show things that they were already working on and how could they make those improvements, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And then on the right side, you see this is one example of a goal for this particular section and how we broke it down into smaller action steps. All right. So I promise I won't read all of this. But after we broke down the goal, these were the explanations of how we decided to action on those particular items and how they were important. At the very bottom, you'll see there's an area that says visibility opportunities. So not only did we want to make sure that these goals were actioned on, but how does it actually reflect visible opportunities for you to see it on campus and around campus? After taking a trip there, we wanted to make sure that, ideas, oh, two hands, cool. Let's see. Ava, I think I see your hand up first. So you had a question?
Hi, I just wanted to know if this is just you guys or is the student body working on this as well?
Yes. So this was actually just a smaller group of students. So, and we actually hadn't talked about it. This was from a class that many of you will take a lot later in the program if you are enrolled in the sustainability management program. This was for the project in sustainability management class. So it's your last class that you'll end up taking, the capstone class. And we had the pleasure to break out into smaller groups in order to work on creating not only an individual project that I don't want to give too much away, but also a sustainability management plan for one of 3 different areas. For my group, myself, Melissa, Kira, and Ivan, we had the pleasure of creating a sustainability management plan for Ramapo College alongside 2 other groups that were working on, one for the city or the town of West New York, and then for the township of Secaucus. I know a couple of you guys are here too, so definitely if you have any advice to give, that's always good. And then Stanley, I saw your hand go up as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, Chris, thanks. I'm wondering, all of this sounds like it would be easier and there would be more direction if executives bought into it. If the president of the university said, yes, we want to do this, and he gave it his stamp of approval, that's going to set a force that allows everything to proceed. But without that, is it possible? And I wonder if you got that here.
Yes, and then I know Dr. Schwani can talk a little bit about it as well. Sometimes it is the atmosphere and who's kind of on board with what idea, but also it can come down to the institution's strategic goals, something that they already had in mind. For the administration, for Ramapo, it was something that they had an idea for, and there was some backing behind people like the president. But again, I don't want to talk too much. Ashwani, if you have any thing that you can say there.
Sure. Just to that particular question, Stanley, yes, you're right. If we had buy-in in advance from administration, that would be a much more effective way to proceed. But it's rare that you will get that kind of buy-in in advance a priori. So we decided to proceed this way instead. We had the President's Committee on Campus Sustainability, which is tasked with promoting sustainability across the campus, working with Stephen's students directly to make sure the plan fit our idea of what was needed for Ramapo College. So we set some of the constraints. These guys brought their resources, their independent vision, their ability to characterize problems in a new way, see things differently, things of that sort, see opportunities where we didn't see them perhaps. And the hope was that once the plan was completed, the President's Committee on Campus Sustainability would assimilate it, begin to implement it, and then get buy-in from administration gradually over time.
And did that happen?
We don't know. It's too soon to say. There's been a few confounders. Our president is retiring at the end of this year. There'll be a new president coming in, so all bets are off in terms of presidential buy-in. But the President's Committee on Campus Sustainability will be receiving a presentation of this plan from this team sometime next month, and we'll take it from there, one step at a time.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, like giving you the perspective of Stevens' administration. The year before, Chris's group, another group devised the sustainability management plan for Stevens, and that resulted in the beginning of a number of conversations we had with the administration. And although we have still not adopted the plan per se, that had a snowball effect in actually like making people more aware of sustainability on campus and putting some money into a committee to actually look into the possibility of us getting a rating in the ASHI, like a rating program. And that resulted in us getting a gold rating this year. So I know this is what we are doing here, what Ashwani was talking about in Ramapo. It's a cart in front of the horse. It's that way. But again, sometimes you need some push to basically get things started. I think that this plan will provide some momentum, in getting that ultimately like getting that plan implemented maybe, or at least getting some sustainability work, gaining some momentum in Ramapo College.
Thank you. And that sounds sort of like grassroots to get things moving.
Yes.
Comes from the bottom up, in other words.
Sometimes that's the better way to proceed. Catherine has her hand up.
Yep, Catherine.
Yeah. Hi, Chris. So I was just wondering, in terms of your goals and even the formatting, did you follow some general, like, did you try to base it off of sustainability reporting standards like SASB or GRI? Because those have big influences on the goals that you're setting based on how you format it. Did you reference to any of that, or just kind of make up your own?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. So when first looking into the sustainability management plan, we essentially had to come up with two sides of it. One was, of course, what Ramapo was looking for. If they didn't have a direction that they wanted to go in, we weren't quite sure of what they wanted to do. And then we were looking at other reporting tools to see how closely related to those goals would be. So at one point within the class, we actually took a step back and said, what direction do we want to go with from here? We actually had to start from scratch and kind of go based off of what we thought was the best set of tools, which was the ASHI STARS rating and the benchmarking tool that came with it. It seemed like the most closely related set of goals for an institution. And with that, other people from other groups could also attest that their framework was also different from ours based on the sustainability management plan, I guess, the topic or what it was for. Because in the reporting tool that you're using for the institution is very well going to be different than what it is for a township. And that's what people found to be not the most difficult part, but you'd have to come up with what works the best based on a variety of different reporting tools.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense, because I've written a sustainability report for a corporate company, and we went with GRI, and so it makes sense, with ASHI for university. Thanks.
No, not a problem. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So moving on to the next slide. This is just a breakdown of some of the highlights and the key benefits. I won't go over all of them, but as you can see, we did highlight some of the good parts and the things that, the organization, or in this case, Ramapo College had already done. Some of the highlights for engagement and community building was that they already had sustainability focused student organizations. They had a couple clubs for, you know, one called One Step. They had the Plant Strong and the Garden Club. They had Student Government Association, which had a sustainability representative. And then some of the key benefits to having those two things present alongside the previously conducted sustainability culture indicator survey was that it enhanced the awareness of sustainability issues on campus. People were already aware of what was going on. The awareness was something that we wanted to build upon. It helped increase the prestige and reputation of the school. So other schools had known some of the things that Ramapo were doing, but we wanted more people to know. And then lastly, it helped increase student and employee campus involvement. So that way people can get involved once they knew things were going on. So this is a flow chart that we used for our presentation, for our capstone, to kind of see how some of these actions flowed into another from the actual goals that were set. And then in this case, for engagement and community building, you can see at the top all of the goals that we had, and they don't have to happen in any particular order, but it just goes to show you that they were very detailed. And then it's really up to Ramapo College in order to start acting on some of these goals and list of recommendations. So like the first one, you know, like increasing media and communications coverage, you know, it just starts with something, you know, a little smaller, like updating the website, hopefully by spring of 2021. Some of these dates are very flexible, but we had to put a date to it so that way they could get started in this process, because sometimes it'll take longer if you don't push people in the right direction. You don't want to push too hard, because everyone also has their own agenda, but you have to, you know, be able to recommend some of these things.
Nudge.
You got to nudge. There you go. Got to say, hey, you know, we just want you to be the best, you know, you can be. Sustainability in academics, you know, some of the highlights, they already have a lot of curriculum devoted to sustainability, you know, a BA in environmental studies, a BS in environmental science, a BA in sustainability. Some of the key benefits for it, you know, it prepares the students to be well-rounded. You know, that offers more prestige to the school. And then we want to start highlighting some of that interdepartmental cooperation. We want professors of different departments to work well with each other in order to take a look at curriculum that may overlap in a very good way. And then it's low cost to implement some of these changes. And then as you can see right there, for the actions in order to restart the Master of Sustainability Arts Sustainability Studies program, you know, this is just, again, some of the key actions. So I'm going to kind of pick up on the pace a little bit from here. Again, these are really just flowchart items to show our train of thought and the actions related to the goals. And if you have any questions about anything in particular, definitely please let me know. And I just want to give you guys a minute in order to kind of review some of the material that's here. If you can take a look at this section, this was probably the most heavy lifting for the report for sustainable operations. There were a lot of different sections that this covered that we tried to come up with a few different actions, but also a lot of goals in reference to what the staff member and the faculty wanted. All right, and then Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. It's good to see some familiar faces. So for the methodology, we followed the ASHI STARS rating system, which closely follows 4 main credit categories, which Chris mentioned: engagement, academics, operations, planning and administration, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The STARS benchmarking tool compares the sustainability achievements of reporting schools. The recommendations included in our report reflect the successfully implemented sustainable practices by the chosen peer schools, while also incorporating our knowledge in engineering, energy, marketing, and permaculture. Our next slide discusses benchmarking. So benchmarking sustainability performance is useful for understanding how Ramapo's efforts compare to the peer schools institutions. The idea was to select schools that were in the New Jersey, New York region with similar cost of living and climate, even if Ramapo did not consider them typical competitor schools. So we aim to find schools with similar opportunities and challenges for sustainability. As seen in the table, peer institutions were chosen based on the following criteria: STARS rating, location, comparable student and campus size, rural and suburban settings, annual snowfall, cost of living, index, and public status. With this search criteria, our chosen peer institutions were SUNY Cortland, Raritan Valley Community College, SUNY Purchase, and SUNY Fredonia. Our next slide goes deeper into our benchmarking analysis. So all our benchmarking data was easily found using the STARS benchmarking tool. The STARS credit rating was used to further prioritize the peer schools in the 4 STARS categories as seen in the top left table. We compared sustainability efforts for Ramapo with peer schools across all the STARS categories. And you can see a snapshot of the table comparing Ramapo against SUNY Cortland and RVCC. Our color coding visually pointed to areas of improvement. Red pointed to poor practices. Orange showed many areas for improvement, yet yellow, minimal areas for improvement, and green represented a leader in sustainability. And that covers our methodology and benchmarking. So back to Chris.
Thank you very much. So just as Ashwani talked about, Dr. Ashwani talked about earlier, we did have quite a few constraints when it came to going over and creating or conducting the SMP itself. You know, part of it did have to coincide with the early spread of COVID-19. So while we were fortunate enough to go to campus in order to meet with members of the President's Committee for Campus Sustainability, the latter half of the planning and the creation of the SMP was all done remotely from home. So we did have a lot of Zoom meetings, you know, whether that be with our teams themselves or through administration members. You know, Eric, he was a really good person to talk to. Alongside Dr. Ashwani, we had to make sure that we were able to still communicate, and we did. The second part, you know, getting the administration on board was rather difficult, you know, based on their time, and our ability to get to the campus initially. You know, compared to Stevens, you know, down in Hoboken, we did have to travel up to Ramapo, make sure that we got there, and it's about an hour drive, so it's not necessarily the best for some people, but it's definitely something that's doable. Once we got there, we had several visits with students on campus, you know, from some of the different organizations. We had our meeting with, we call them, the major key players of the administration, and you know, we really took advantage of all the time that we had in order to speak with them, to just simply have a conversation, to, you know, let them hear our recommendations, but also to hear, the things that they were looking for and the things that they had already done. You know, it was surprising at some points to kind of see, you know, how that conversation grew into our sustainability management plan, which was really nice to see. And we hope to continue that and see where it goes from there. We did have to keep track of all of the people that we did come into contact with, so that way we knew all the people that we had gotten feedback from, and then those who we still needed a bit more information. I think a lot of it may actually be highlighted, you know, subtly in the sustainability management plan, but we know from working on it some of the things that we may have needed to loop more people in. And then they were only able, I guess on the flip side, they were only able to meet with us one time. We didn't have too much of the administration reach out to us specifically. And we had Dr. Ashwani kind of as the liaison between, you know, us and Ramapo, which was really helpful. Thank you again for that. And then Dr. Ashwani, if you want to just talk a little bit about the future plans. I know we highlighted a lot of them before.
Sure. So basically the plan is quite simple. We're going to use the President's Committee on Campus Sustainability to move this plan forward. So the team will present to the committee. The committee will assimilate the plan, build it into their own structure, take it up into subgroups, and then move the implementation forward as best we can, as quickly as we can. It's that simple.
Well said. And with that, that's the end of our presentation. And I'm sure you guys have some questions, you know, what's on your mind?